Hello, everybody. Welcome to another session of Show and Tell Monthly. We are here with our September 2025 show. We are really excited about this one. We've got a lot of really great guests today. All of them were covered in the certification roundup this month, too. So really fun to be able to first get to go through our latest certifications and get excited about them, and then to follow that up by getting to talk to the folks who made them and actually see a little bit more in depth about how their projects come together is always like really fun and exciting for me, since I do the write-ups and do the live stream. So I'm excited to get to talk to everyone about their projects. But a few little housekeeping items beforehand. As you know, Open Hardware Month is coming up. October is Open Hardware Month. We are just a few weeks out. And how are you celebrating? How will you be participating in Open Hardware Month this month? There's so many fun ways that you can do that. So, for example, you might want to run an activity with your makerspace. You might want to go attend someone else's activity. I know that here at OSHWA, we will be doing another exciting, very long live stream. We'll be doing a 12-hour live stream this year. We couldn't quite pull off the 24 hours again. Sorry to you long haulers, but turns out we love sleep. But we will be doing that on October 6th. So from 8 a.m. Eastern to 8 p.m. Eastern, we will be live with all sorts of guests from all over the world who are doing really cool things with open source hardware in so many fun ways. I can't even begin to describe how exciting this is going to be. Like, we've got, just to name a few folks off the top of my head, we've got, we're going to have Guy Dupont, who does all kinds of really fun open source bespoke hardware that does all kinds of really fun stuff. We've got Ayesha Iftikhar. We've had her come on and talk about some of her projects before. She does really fun work around STEAM education. We've got the Open Nerve project, which is an incredible open healthware project. We're going to have Digital Naturalism Laboratories again. We've got Darcy Neal. We're going to have Alex Glow, Blendster, Mr. Industries, Oscar Zhang, so many really cool folks. And that's just like a handful of the people. It's a long day, 36 folks coming through to talk about all the work that they're doing. So get ready for that on October 6th, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern. Beyond that, you can also kind of figure out ways that you can do fun things in your area. You can also make sure you're certifying your work. Certifying your work is always the best way to celebrate Open Hardware Month. Get those numbers up in your country and really show off all the cool things you're doing. So we really hope that you're going to be finding fun ways to bring open hardware into your life during October, and come hang out with us in various capacities, because it's going to be a really great time. But for today, we are going to be focusing on our 3 new certified projects that came through in the last month that we thought were really dang cool. We have Joe Hinchcliffe with the magnetic PCB clamps, Mark Salazar with the DIY suturing board, and William Kennedy with the contactless bicycle dynamo and light, which are all really amazing things. So what we're going to do is we're just going to get started. We're going to jump right in and pull Joe Hinchcliffe onto the stage. Welcome, Joe. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm good, thank you. Thanks very much for having me.
Thank you for coming on. I know that we are in different time zones, so it's always fun when people can make it work.
Yeah, it's super nice actually. It's just 6 p.m. here in North Wales in the UK. Yeah, so it's not a tricky one. It's no 3 a.m. Kind of bleary-eyed, stumbling in with coffee. It's all good.
I mean, yeah, that is a little bit nicer. Although we do appreciate when people do the 3 a.m. stumbling in with coffee.
Absolutely.
It is always very fun. It may be exhausting for them. So, what space are you in right now?
So I'm in a little makerspace. So I live in quite a mountainous village in North Wales called Bethesda, which has there's a famous Bethesda in the States, isn't there, in Maryland, who build all kinds of.
Something about that? I don't know. They did something.
So I get weird interactions over that all the time. But yeah, little mountainous village, and just in the last couple of years, we've set up a community makerspace. So I trade a bit of skills to occasionally allow me to have a bit of time where I can use the room. So here we are.
Perfect. And that is a really fun thing about makerspaces. Love trading time and skills to get to use resources.
Yeah, it's super nice, and it's super resilient. God, I could talk about this for ages. I kind of like I kind of get a bit annoyed sometimes when spaces are like completely reliant on like funding for anything to happen. And, you know, so yeah, the whole trading bits of time and skill and mutualism and stuff is definitely the secret source of particularly in like places where there are millions of makers. It's definitely the way.
It's all part of that DIY, baby. Which we're here to talk about one of your DIY creations, the magnetic PCB clamp. So let's look at that. So how did this come to exist?
Well, so so basically what it is it's a little clamp with a magnet in the base, and it allows you to clamp up and do work on things like PCBs and stuff like that. The reason it came into being is actually still unfolding. So I kind of write for a few different people, and for myself, I produce lots of sort of tutorial content and stuff. So I do a bit of work for FreeCAD, and I am continually trying to write FreeCAD content. But actually for a free magazine that I put out, I wanted a little beginner's project using FreeCAD. And this was the idea that I came up with. But I came up with the idea because I'd been watching Alex Glow on the Day Glow show, and she made a reference to those really super sexy, if we're allowed to say, super sexy. Is it Omnifixio clamps?
Yeah.
Which are like a very nice kind of commercial product that you can buy that do a very similar job to this. And I thought, oh, they're cool. But then looking around, there's lots of people have made their own versions of them because essentially they're just a bolt and some 3D printing. So I thought, oh, I'll make my own, and it will make a nice little beginner's tutorial for FreeCAD for my own Source magazine, which is a free pay-as-you-feel quarterly magazine that I put out. And then I thought, oh, what I should do is I should get them certified by the Open Source Hardware Association, and then I can write a little tutorial which will be coming out in a few weeks about how you get things certified. So that's the genesis. So I didn't think anybody would actually be that interested in the clamp, but you know, here we are.
I mean, I think what really drew me to this project is we're always trying to find ways to keep our stations organized and figure out like how things go together. And like we're all familiar with the helping hands, which are not that helpful at all, in my opinion, as a very mediocre solderer. So I think something like this is such a, like, even though it feels simple, like it really is solving this major problem that people don't really think about that often.
Absolutely, and they're super. Like the brilliant thing is that if you grab, like, you could design these and make them yourself, and you could react to whatever length of bolt and what springs you have and stuff like that. But when you start making them multiples of them, if they're all the same dimensions, then everything just lines up perfectly. So yeah, they're super handy. I find them way more useful than the sort of helping hands. And of course, the other thing is they clamp kind of parallel. So as the bottom plate floats up and touches the top plate, they're not sort of coming together at an angle where they're trying to like almost squeeze the item out of the clamp. They're actually, they're nice and non-destructive clamps. So super handy for PCBs, but even like, that sort of wanting to put a bit of solder on 2 bits of bare wire, but trying to get the bare bits of wire to be next to each other or whatever. Super handy for that.
Yeah, like I feel like it's one of those things where, like, even though you designed it with PCBs in mind, there's lots of ways that people can utilize this just for having that, for no better word, some helping hands to keep those things in place while you're working with these like small electronics, and you don't want to have that squeeze, because that squeeze on the end can really, it starts to affect the quality of your wires, of your materials. So having something that's like a little bit more, it's giving like a nice platform to hold it, and it's not pushing anything out of the way or making it like weird angles. It's just a nice, smooth, easy clamp. And that is really, like I said, it seems simple, but it's really something that we do need. People need this a lot when they're working.
Yeah, it's funny what people have sort of said that they would do with them or have done with them is like, so of course, like, they work anywhere metal. So like if you're, so the other thing is, like, this shows my age now, a retro sort of tobacco till. Don't smoke, kids. It's terrible for you.
It's bad.
But I'm only 21. Look what it did to me. You know? You can stick them inside a till, and suddenly this till becomes like a super portable little kind of clamping environment. And I like a little repair cafe, and like I can take it, and even if there's nothing else metal, I can work on my little till on something if I need to solder it. But also, like there, they've got a nice like iFixit kit, and when you like unpack it all, it's got like a metal tray in the middle of the sort of roll out toolkit.
One.
And so suddenly it's like, oh, I can use them on this, and like I've used them on like using them on whiteboards is a classic where you're somewhere and you need to mend something. So like chucking a couple out of your bag onto a whiteboard to just hold something, and that's nice because you can work in front of you, you know, at your height on things. Somebody said, oh, I'd use it, like it'd be really handy when you're doing auto electrical stuff, which is not something I really do. But I was like, oh yeah, cars are essentially metal, so like you can
metal on a car.
Stick these around and kind of do work and stuff like that. So yeah, superbly and more adaptable than even I first thought. And I made. So.
I mean, that's the joy of open source, right? Like people are like immediately able to be like, oh, this can actually have so many more uses than just PCBs, and they are perfect for PCBs at the same time. So that's a really fun way that like folks have already been running with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, like, it's not a unique idea. There's lots of kind of different magnet PC work holding clamps out there. So it's quite a fun, well, I don't know. I think I'm preaching to the choir if I say, I think it's quite a fun thing to go around like all the sort of, you know, Principles and GrabCAD and all those places and like, just look what people have done for like little sort of variations on this and stuff. So like one thing I'm sort of working on, but I'm not very happy with is, this you won't even see, and I'm going to stab myself. But there's this thing about people using acupuncture pins as probes because they're super fine, like so fine. It's very easy to perform some accidental acupuncture on yourself at any given moment. But I'll try not to do that on the live stream. So I've been making like a little mag mount adjustable version of that, you know, and so yeah, it brings out all kinds of ideas, and also now I just always have like a lump of steel on my desk, so you start to kind of just instantly you think, oh, I could put like I could do with a magnet mount one of these on it and one of these. And
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's that's actually really interesting. Already having like exploring like the probe concept, and then like even that, like if you wanted to bring that up in size a little bit, like when I was looking at it, it was reminding me of kind of like lamp setups. So if you wanted like a really precise light in an area, you could maybe thread it through that and like be able to look at like all these teeny kind of parts, or holding a magnifying glass, all these like things that we do use a lot when we're working with small little bits of tech, and then you can get right in there, and it's not as invasive as other methods that we have right now.
Yeah. I think that's what drew me to the sort of the needle idea, was they're just so fine, and you can even buy stupidly fine heat shrink. So this actually is covered with heat shrink that's like 0.2 millimeter heat shrink or something. It's ridiculous. And so the tip of the needle is like, you know, so small. So you could like, you know, you could theoretically, because of the length of them, you could have like loads of them diving into something really, really complex. But yeah, I like the idea of maybe doing like an articulated like pogo pin, you know, the sprung pins, because that's the one thing with these is they're quite difficult to kind of actually set precisely in contact because there's no kind of vertical springiness in them. So pogo pins for like test points and stuff like that is a handy idea down the line to add to this maybe. Yeah,
I mean, and again, like you started off being like, oh, I don't know, it's not that exciting, it's just a PCB clamp, and now you're already like generating all these ideas, being like, actually, there's so much that you could use and adapt this for, and make it into like more ways that folks can be able to interact with their work and still keep like a firm base on it, and that's really cool.
I'm giggling because it's that sort of maker. It's like the maker peril, isn't it? Of like, I've got like a cool open source like robot with 4 motor drivers, and last month for a magazine I made like a palm-sized open source submarine project, and yet like the last month everybody's been like, no, tiny clamps. Tell us about the tiny clamps. Like, you can't win,
Morgan Allen actually is wondering if the springiness could be built into the arm holding the needle.
Well, let's just give a shout out to Morgan Allen. What a legend, building Key Connect, a very, very exciting development of FreeCAD and KeyCAD that's going to do wonderful things for those people who like to mush circuit boards together. But yeah, maybe, yeah. The spring actually, there is like a kind of weird thing on the acupuncture springs, that the top of it is sprung, but it's sprung to allow it to kind of bend in this direction. It's not like a compression or an expansion spring in that way. So yeah, maybe we have to build the spring into a chamber, but then I run the risk of shooting, very sharp things around my desk.
Some acupuncture.
I'll be found like like a weird sort of. It took 1,000 punches, but he died eventually.
I'm like,
sorry, that's a little dark.
Sure that is one of the deaths on 1,000 Ways to Die, classic television series that we all love. But Morgan also wants us to know that they've been fixing bugs that can also be known as features.
Hey, Morgan's been live streaming about his developments of this brilliant FreeCAD workbench, which I'm very excited about. Yeah. So yeah.
Oh, right. That's actually another thing I want to touch on. So these clamps were built in FreeCAD?
Yeah.
And so, how did you find that process?
Oh, well, so I have to complain that I do a bit of work for FreeCAD, contributing to the blog. And I also wrote a book for Raspberry Pi Press, which is a free book, actually. I'm not just shilling stuff that people need to buy. But there's a free book on the Raspberry Pi Press called FreeCAD for Makers. So yeah, I don't know. It's that weird thing. I've written a book on FreeCAD, and sometimes people go like, oh, he must be very good at it. I've probably only used about 30% of it, if that. But yeah, so I obviously, I'm going to say I love FreeCAD, and it's completely intuitive, and it's super easy to use, and like it just onboards you instantly. But that would probably be not very true. But I think FreeCAD is a wonderful organisation. It's a brilliant package, and it's under really active development by an amazing global team. So. If you looked at it a few years ago and found it a bit painful, do come back and try it again. The nice thing about, and I don't want to become like zealous, but the nice thing about putting out open source projects using tools like FreeCAD and KeyCAD is the whole tool chain is open source. So like anybody determined enough can go on a journey of discovery and replicate your entire thing on a cheap laptop or whatever. So I'm a massive advocate for it. So yeah, and this project is a perfect little project. You have to make some holes, and you have to make some shapes beyond circles. There's a couple of hexagons inside. There's like a captive nut in a little hexagonal section and stuff. So it would make a great kind of beginner's project.
Yeah.
And is super trivial if you've got used to some of the basics of FreeCAD. It's super trivial to kind of knock stuff like this up quickly, and of course it prints quickly because it's tiny. So you can iterate on this or print out 10 of them in an hour or two, and so
definitely
super handy.
Fun, like a really great way to like also experiment with like sizing and maybe needing a specific clamp shape or something without having to like really go into a whole new thing. I haven't found it yet, but I was thinking like at some point the floating clamp, the bit that actually is pushed up by the spring, I was thinking, surely at some point I'll make a custom one of those that does something, holds something in a certain way. And I haven't yet, but I imagine that it's coming, where there's some little work holding challenge, and I think, do you know what? If I just reprint that bit with this added feature, it will just hold it perfectly. Yeah. Always one step away. There's just one last step.
Yeah.
And so just wanted to say that from what they've seen about FreeCAD, using 100% of it seems like a lifelong adventure. And based on my experience with CAD of any kind, yes.
I think you're dead right, Sid. I think every CAD program is kind of like that, but FreeCAD kind of even more so because people are always building add-ons to it because it's all Python and C. So like you can find some crazy workbenches out there. Like at FOSDEM last year, there was a guy who was rewiring his house, and he made like a workbench that dealt with all the cabling and all the like conduits, and when he moved like a plug in his house, his entire CAD updated, and like he just built this like really useful for a small number of people add-on. But and yeah, there's like add-ons for designing, there's a workbench for designing like hang gliders, there's ship building add-ons, it's just absolutely endless because people have taken maybe their one person use case and built a whole heap of tools for it. So it's super
I mean, I think that's also like a really good kind of note of open source hardware, the clamps, everything. Like, even though it feels like it's a very singular use case, there's always going to be at least one more person in the world that's like, wait, actually, no, I need that too. That's actually really perfect for what I'm working on. And that's a really cool way to have things come together.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like non-proprietary like stuff like this is cool because there's loads of versions of this out there, but like nobody's trying to sell you or maybe, maybe people are, and maybe I'll sell you one of these if I meet you in real life. But like the fact is that you've got the freedom, like there's loads of different sort of versions of this design out there that you can probably download and make for yourself, which is a cool thing. And then, the fact that it's built in FreeCAD means that you wouldn't have to learn much to make this slightly different. You can jump in and you can make it your own, and you can share it, and you can as long as you meet the license agreements, you can do what you like with it. And so that's super handy. I think super empowering.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's such a cool little project. Like it's one of those things where it seems like it's maybe something kind of small, but it's actually a really impactful tool. It's really great to get folks involved in trying out a program they maybe aren't familiar with. And you're already finding so many more use cases than you thought there would be initially. So, I mean, what a cool project. What a cool project. And as far as I know, it is our first version of this that has been certified. So even though there are other versions out there, this one is open source and will stay open source.
Well, that's my second first. The only other thing I have, to my shame, that's certified by OSHWA is a weird. So I build a lot of rockets, and I designed just to like annoy myself. I think I designed a rocket that didn't use any tubes, so it's completely hexagonal. Which is just a pain because none of the actual tools, like people have built entire FreeCAD workbenches to help you build rockets, but not hexagonal ones, which is partly to do with my psychology, obviously. But it's time that I got some more stuff certified. So thank you for mentioning. October is maybe when I should be putting some more
firsts.
Stuff.
Who knows what other firsts you're going to collect in certification land?
From rockets to clamps. Where next, Sid?
Anything made of atoms rather than bits. Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on today, Joe. It was so great to hear more about this project and the ways that your mind kind of like has already been wandering and figuring out more ways to improve it. It was wonderful to chat.
Very enjoyable. Thanks a lot, Sid. Take care.
See you soon. Like I said, it's just there's so many things you can do if you just put your mind to it and let your mind flow with something that seems like a small idea. It can really grow into something quite impressive, and even small things are really cool. I personally love a teeny tiny little device. I have many little buttons and switches that I like to just play with sometimes. I think I have one literally right beside me. I've been playing with this little button all morning. It has a very satisfying click. Ugh, delightful. And you can see how it works. Oh, Teeny tiny things. They're the best. Next up, we are going to be joined by Mark Salazar. Hello, Mark. How are you doing today?
Pretty good, pretty good. Just
Um, so you are one of the folks that's working in open healthware, which we've been pushing a lot lately.
yes,
And
yes.
you actually presented this project at
Mhm.
the Open Healthware Conference.
Yeah, I'm so excited to present it. And right now, my schedule with school is pretty intense. So I'm pretty lucky that today is my day off, so I get to
Oh,
present,
wow.
this the suturing board. But there's a lot of history with the board. This project really started in when I was in high school. I was a senior and I decided that I was going to take medical school like seriously, like the pathway to get there because it's a lot of hours, and there's a lot of things you got to do. But I'm a first generation student, and because I didn't have people next to me that were in medicine that I could get advice, I went to YouTube. And a lot of
Mm,
the medical students on YouTube said that suturing is such an important skill that you need to develop regardless of what field of medicine you go into, whether it's family or surgery. So I bought me a suture pad, and I was kind of dissatisfied with the suturing pad because it tore up, as I started using it. There was a lot of friction, and I was discouraged by the price, because I wanted to practice more. And I was a little bit lost, I didn't know what to do. So I tried looking for alternatives. And that's when I found people using like regular arts and craft materials, they're using foam boards. I even saw people using plywood, but clips, different, very creative ways of using the things that you can find at a department store to practice surgery. Because at the end of the day, surgery is just movements that are supposed to be simple, that you kind of put together to really do the surgery itself.
yeah.
So went to the backyard. I saw plywood. My dad has a bunch of screws, and I decided to do this.
Yeah.
This is kind of one of the later versions, but essentially the goal of this suture board is to use deliberate practice. Essentially, it's sort of like in sports, doing like a simple practice. So in soccer, you kick the ball against the wall, to practice the passing skills. And surgery very much has those same kind of practicing techniques. Is knowing how to use the needle driver and the needles and how to handle it correctly with tissues. Like even though the board looks kind of rudimentary, it doesn't look like a skin edge. It really behaves so similarly. I was so surprised because I've used this board before medical school, and now that I am in medical school, I've gone to the operating room, and I've been in surgeries. I've been first assist in a couple, and I've had the ability to close skin, and it's just so cool that the skills, the hours that I put in with this board really translated there. The skin is so flexible and stretchy, and you're able to get it's the same movements. It's just you got to adapt it a little bit differently. But yeah, that's really my board. There's different stations that you could do. I mean, there's this little rectangle, and this one's to do drills where you can just pass the needle, reload, and redo it. You can go around the clock. You can even make a pentagon, and the pentagon's important, especially in cardiac surgery. Whenever you're trying to sort of make a portal to like cardiac bypass. To do a bypass, you got to do this around the clock kind of suture. So you can practice it here. In this station, you can practice your hand ties. Super important to be able to suture something and then tie it with your hands, especially in deep crevices. In this right here, it has tension. And the tension is super important to really teach you how to use your dominant hand to create the tension in the tissue. So it's not too much and it's not too little. It's just kind of enough. And here, this part of the board is new. Okay. I want to show you this little screw. I got me a magnetic hook because the problem that I had in some of these surgeries is that the residents would tell me that I would put too much tension on the tissue whenever I'm doing my hand ties. And that's because I was practicing here. this magnetic hook essentially kind of fixes the problem because there's a little magnet, so there's a little bit of tension, you know. But if I put too much tension upwards with my hands, this thing will come off, and that would reinforce the idea that I need to be a little bit lighter with the hands. So it's just trying to incorporate the things that I learned in OR in here. This clip is a little bit more advanced, okay? And these are to work on anastomosing like blood vessels, intestines. I mean, you can do all kinds of stuff. Here I have some examples. Like this right here is a patch angioplasty. And a patch is really important in vascular surgery because you can't just close blood vessels, yeah, after you open them. You actually need a little bit of a patch so the blood vessel doesn't decrease, or so there's not a whole lot of resistance in that area that you worked on. That way it can be nice and expanded. But it's really a work in progress, you know?
Yeah, it's really interesting having like the different stations so you can practice the different thing, like the skills of like different parts of the body are going to need different approaches
Yes.
and
Oh,
different,
definitely.
yeah, that's a
Yeah.
really smart way to like approach it. Like when you're using a traditional suturing board, does it take that into account, or were you able to kind of bring out more case studies on the DIY board?
A traditional silicone pad is really meant for superficial sort of closures. But as you go deep into sort of like the abdominal cavity, I'm interested in general surgery. So a lot of the stuff that I want to do is in the abdomen and it's deeper. It's very hard to practice those techniques. As you close the dermis, you got to do some deep to superficial throws. And it's really hard with those silicone pads because there's not a whole lot of real estate in the vertical sort of axis. And yes, I found it very helpful here. Actually, this material, these hair ties, I found them on accident. I wanted rubber bands initially, but my parents didn't have any. And then I went to my sister's room, like my little sister, and she had these hair ties, and I just got them from her. And these are perfect because as you can see, there's an edge to them, right? So whenever I have like my tools, my pickups, I can pull on this edge, and it's a very similar motion whenever you're closing the dermis. You got to be able to retract the skin and pass it here and then go this way. And it's very similar. I was so surprised. I was on accident, like the fact that this material works. Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so exciting being able to just like go around your home and find different
Right.
materials and see like how it interacts and how similar it is.
Yeah, no, it's really cool, and the idea is to empower people that, if you're in a different situation and you don't have a whole lot of resources to do a career, you don't have to let that stop you. You can do anything as long as you put in the time and effort, and you look around you to see what you do have and make the most out of the situation.
Yeah, out of curiosity, when you're using the silicone mats, what's
Yes.
the cost associated with those?
Well, I had a cheap one and that was about $40. And the nicer silicone models can go upwards to 100.
Yeah.
I was always so envious of those, when people had them in the YouTube videos, but I just didn't want to spend that kind of money.
No, that's a lot of money, and especially if like with silicone, that material breaks down really
Yeah, it
quickly as
does.
you keep practicing. So
Yeah,
something like this, where you get to utilize things like hair ties that are you can
right. They're
get a
cheap.
lot of those for like
Right.
you go to the dollar store and you can get a whole bag of them for $1.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And what's really cool about the hair ties is that it doesn't have a whole lot of friction. And that's a problem with the traditional silicone models. You're doing to be very proficient at surgery, you got to do thousands of reps, If you're doing 1,000 reps on silicone models, it can lead to strain because of
Mhm.
how hard it is to pass through. And these hair ties, they're very porous and elastic. There's no rubber core to them, so they're very good for that reason as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a really smart use of materials to be able to like really explore the different ways that you can get those similar like hand feel as
Yes, yes, yes.
different levels
Similar
of
techniques,
yeah.
Yeah. And that way, whenever you're in the operating room, you feel comfortable. And it's really helped me in the OR because I feel comfortable with the tools, so my residents also feel comfortable allowing me to do these techniques. And it's more likely that they're going to push me beyond my zone of comfort, which would help me grow. Ultimately, you grow from doing difficult things, but they're not going to push you there if they don't feel comfortable there. So it's really good for to accelerate the learning for someone like in the medical field and things like that, who are wanting to go into something like this.
Yeah, I was thinking about how it could be very helpful for folks going into, medical field general. There's eight
Yeah,
bajillion types of doctors, so just to say the general medical field.
right. There's
But
so
then
many.
like you can also utilize it if you are looking into like animal care, and then also if you are looking at like street medic training and what it looks like to learn how to do simple sutures if you are in a situation where
Right.
you don't have the time to get to healthcare.
Yes, like in austere environments, of course.
Yeah, I know that like a lot of folks I know are doing a lot of
Mhm.
bio work out in remote settings, and when they're in those places, like if you do have an accident, it is quite a big undertaking to get someone from remote location to medical care
No,
facility.
definitely, definitely.
So something like this is such a great way that people can have some
Mhm.
basic understanding of the skill without having to like maybe they aren't fully trying to become doctors, but
Right.
they can do a couple stitches and get to the medical care facility and do the next part there.
Yeah, of course, of course.
Have you been sharing this board with other folks in your cohort?
Yeah, I made two boards for my friends over there in medical school. But what I want to do is do a giveaway, in this next month, and I want to give it away with nicer tools like needle drivers and things like that. And my school recently added this learning communities. It's like small rooms in the medical school by the hospital. So I think it'll be really cool if I can make boards for each room and then talk to the administrators if they can fund the tools because they get kind of expensive. Yeah, I
Hmm.
think there's like 5 rooms in there. But yeah, I mean, that's the goal. The goal is to, disseminate the work. That way other people in my cohort can study and practice the skill. They're so important.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like what we know of medical school based on like media, like I mean, my main experience with going through the medical school process is Grey's Anatomy, which is a great show if you love nonsensical plot lines. Um, but like
Have you
they
seen the
have
pit?
this. I haven't watched it yet. I know I should. I should
Man,
get on the
oh
pit.
good.
I know it's really good. But I think that like, in Grey's Anatomy and maybe other medical shows too, you kind of see this like
Mhm.
competitiveness between the different students where they want to be the one in the OR. But it's really nice to see something where it's like, no, we all want to be in the OR, and how can we make sure that we can all be in the OR really, really well and
Of
actually
course.
be accomplishing our goal of being good doctors and doing
Yes.
surgery well.
That's the ultimate goal. And medical school has been trying to make changes as well to kind of mitigate that problem. A lot of it is pass fail now to help with competitiveness and things like that. And yeah, I think it really comes down to the student to make sure that they want to help other students. At the end of the day, is we're here to serve, right?
Mhm.
And we want to make sure we do that in the best way possible.
Yeah, I wonder what it could look like if you do actually have the ability to put these in these training rooms. If you could have like the funding to do really big boards and like folks can practice what it looks like to be working on sutures at the same time. I know that that can happen in
Yeah,
surgery where multiple
yeah, that
doctors
definitely
are
does
doing the same
happen.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to do a workshop in the future where I want to make my own art, with pencils and things like that, and really make some clinical scenarios. Like you're closing a hernia defect, right? Maybe you're closing the external oblique muscle, and you have to learn how to work with the other person as they're closing the stitch, right? There's an art to it. And then once you close that layer, then you both do some deep dermals and you close the skin together. I've had that experience in the OR, just me and the resident, closing fascia at the same time. They
Yeah.
take one half, I take the other half. And yeah, learning how to work together is really important. I agree with you.
Yeah. I,
Yes.
I could really see that being really effective as a tool of being like, okay, so if we have a lot of space, if we're in a close space, what does it look like for us to work side by side and
Right.
with each other? And
Right.
like, how do we have to navigate our hands so that we're not getting in each other's way and making the problem worse, but we're also like really proficient.
Exactly. Exactly. No,
I also,
there's an art to it.
yeah,
Yes.
I really love that you're adapting it as you're finding more ways that you need to like practice and find new ways to bring the skills to different directions. That's a really like having it be a simple build means that you get to change it so
Right.
easily.
And based on your needs as well. And I mean, with this board here, I have like these are magnetized, and I actually didn't work out too good. I think in the future boards I'm gonna make, I'm just gonna make wood, stances. I mean that I just use them because I know what else to use, but they're just to elevate the platform. I think in the future I'm just gonna use wood and regular old clips, and yeah, just keep adapting it to whatever needs I need in that moment.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, it's a great way to do it. I mean, I just think it's such a fascinating thing that like people, uh, medical school is one of those things that we really associate with like high costs.
Yeah.
It's a really expensive endeavor to become a doctor and go through that
Oh
process,
yes, yes it is.
and then to have these additional costs for like getting access to practice, having to be
No,
like
no.
anywhere from $40 to $100 to get like one silicone pad. Not to mention, if
And
you
then
want
the
to
future
be
one. And
really
they
good,
won't
you're
let
probably going to do a
you
lot.
close. They won't like if you're in the third year rotations in the OR and you're not very proficient with these skills, they're not gonna let you sew skin, and that's unfortunate because 30 years is a year that you practice. So yeah, you have to figure out a way to practice before getting there,
Hmm.
and it's very expensive. And hopefully this can alleviate some of that cost. Hopefully I can have it so it's like a community board, where people can practice there at the school.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, have you so with your folks in your cohort, have they been practicing as well with you on these boards, or like are you um, have you been getting like feedback from them on things you should change or add?
Not quite. No, I mean the two people that I give these boards to, they haven't given me feedback, so I'm not too sure. The main things that I've changed is just from personal experience in the OR,
Yeah.
and even the board. I mean, I don't like that it's magnetic. It looks like an eraser. I don't know. It's just I'm suturing it sometimes, like the needle driver would like get attached, like magnetized to it. So yeah, I'm gonna change that for sure. um, I don't know. Just from my personal experience, I found it super helpful in the dexterity in the OR. But I will keep an open mind, once I kind of share this with more people to see does it work for them or not. Hopefully, it
Yeah.
does.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on and telling us about the suturing board. I'm
Thank
really
you.
excited to see how
Yeah,
folks get engaged with it and
I
would love to
appreciate
hear
it.
updates on if they end up supporting your work to get more of them in the school.
100%. Yes. Well, thank you for having me. Thank you. I appreciate it.
We'll talk
Yes.
to you soon, Marco.
Bye.
Bye. Such a cool thing. I did not go to medical school. If you can't tell, I am not a doctor in any way. But I really think that like something like this can be so effective for a lot of people, especially as we're entering some complicated times. It can be really good to have these simple medical skills for a lot of people beyond just being in medical school. I think a lot of folks might want to explore what it could look like to know how to do something as simple as suturing, because even though it might seem like, oh, I know how to hand sew, so it's like that, it's not. Bodies feel different than fabric, so getting to play with something that has that kind of resistance that you might not be familiar with could be a really effective way to prepare for any potential situation you might walk into. And now we're going to move on to our final guest of the day. We've got William Kennedy, the freakiest lamps of himself, who is joining us in a beautiful bike shop.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited to demo. I'm currently in a nonprofit shared kind of bike shop called Reciclos here in Los Angeles. And this has kind of worked as my makeshift studio. And I'm here to demo a bicycle like dynamo and light. So a bike dynamo is something that generates electricity to power a light as you spin the wheel. So typically these dynamos have been, there's a few different kind of methods. a lot of times the early ones, you had a little bottle kind of thing that would rub against the rim, and as that spun, it would generate electricity, and that would light up a light. But then you had the problem of friction and wear and tear on that. Then came a little bit of a newer invention where there was a hub that was part of the wheel, and you had to build a wheel around that. So you attach spokes to the hub and have the rim of the wheel around that. And as the hub spins, it can also generate electricity. Way lower drag, but it's a little more expensive, and it's kind of like a specialized part. And then there's a kind of a third, newer kind of design, which actually doesn't touch the rim at all, and it uses eddy currents on the bicycle rim to generate electricity. So that's what this little thing is. I can show you real quick so like people can get a sense of what it is, but I have like a little, let me move this a little bit so we can get, this is the dynamo here. It's on the rim. Sorry, this is kind of like, this is the dynamo here. And then there is a bike light up here. That is, so the dynamo generates electricity and it lights up the light here. So if you spin the wheel, you can see this, the light is lighting up. Might be hard to see.
There's a bit of a glow going on.
Yeah, so and if you stop the wheel, it stops. And yeah, it's kind of hard to tell, but this dynamo is not actually touching the rim here. So it is contactless, which is really cool. It makes it easy to install low wear and tear, low friction or extra drag on your ride. And yeah, so it's a cool little thing. This is not like an original invention. There are a number of these that are on the market right now. They're kind of expensive, and they are all closed source. So I was really inspired by this. I mean, who likes to keep on charging their bike lights every time they ride, and you forget to charge them and they don't have any lights. So I like the idea of a dynamo, but I've always felt like it was expensive and kind of like too fancy. So I kind of just like wanted to come up with the design. I kind of just thought this idea of contactless and using eddy currents, this electromagnetic phenomenon, was kind of interesting to me. So I wanted to just like dive into it. And yeah, and I knew that I was going to the Digital Naturalism Conference, and they wanted me to host a workshop. So I was like, okay, this would be a good excuse to like make this weird dynamo project and be able to teach it. So I designed it as like a kit that you can make in a workshop. Yeah, we taught a few of them at the Digital Naturalism Conference, got a lot of good feedback, and currently improving it, and it's officially been open source as of about a month ago. But yeah, it's kind of two different parts, the dynamo and then the bike light, and there's a custom PCB, very small PCB, that you can change between a red light and a white light for a front or back light. So I actually have like a little setup on the table of like all the different parts. I can kind of like go through real quick, unless you have any questions for me.
Yeah, show us the parts.
Okay, cool. I have like this tripod I haven't really used very much, so bear with me. Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay.
Lots of fun angles in here.
Yeah. I thought it would be easier than, yeah, so I kind of have, the dynamo consists of about 7 parts. So yeah, basically there is the real magic here is this, it's like basically it's just skateboard bearing with magnets along the outside. So skateboard bearing, there's a little adapter in here, and then there's 12 magnets along the outside, and a little 3D printed part. I designed all this in SolidWorks, but I'd love to design it and redo it in FreeCAD. So that's currently like the list.
It seems like a good time to get into FreeCAD.
No, after hearing, I was like, yeah, I haven't used FreeCAD in a couple of years, and it was pretty frustrating. But I hear, based on earlier discussions, that it's much easier to use. So trying to convert all this into FreeCAD, hopefully it could be a good learning exercise. This is kind of the one that spins. It goes inside of this dynamo housing in here. Yeah, and then there's like a screw that goes through. That's the part that spins. There's a screw that goes through with the axle. And then kind of the most fun part about the workshop is the winding. So you have to do a copper coil of wire and you wind it around, simply just making a generator. So as the magnetic field changes, as these magnets flow through this, they have a magnetic field. That magnetic field induces a current on the copper coil, and that's what generates the electricity. So once that's all done, there's kind of some wiring that has to happen, and then the second part is the light part. So this is like the PCB here. Yeah, it's a little simple PCB made in KiCad. There's two LEDs in here. There's a red one and a white one, and there's a little jumper, so you can solder a little blob there and pick if you want red or white for front or backlight. You can't have both at the same time. And then that goes onto this, a little like a mount. Yeah, there's a few different, I love to make it so that these mounts are a little more universal, because after doing the workshop, I realized, obviously, that bicycles have tons of different dimensions, and the forks and the handlebars are all different sizes. So this is kind of a single size, but eventually I'd love to make it so it's a little more adaptable. This, and then is a little cover here, and I put like a little lens on that, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, about seven parts or so, and then there's a mount. This is the mount for the dynamo. So this is what mounts onto your frame, and then you put this here. It's also kind of like I've run the workshop a number of times. I made a bunch. I did a bicycle trip through Indonesia after Dynacon, and I used the dynamo, and it was a good 3-week bicycle journey that I got to use the dynamo and kind of get some good feedback on how it works and doesn't work, and they get really dirty. Here's there's also a cover you put on top of the dynamo to kind of keep the dirt and grime away. This is what happened after 3 weeks of biking. It's kind of got shredded. You can see it rubs against the rim a lot here, so it's pretty thin. This one actually stopped spinning because it was, there's problems. But it was a good testing bed, and yeah, so it was very fun workshop to do, and I want to kind of continue iterating on it and doing more workshops and making it better and better. But yeah, I think that's kind of I have another dynamo here where I have a red light. So yeah, you can see, you just spin this guy induces a current, and you get a red light up here. This is kind of like the entire setup. We got the dynamo, we got the light, people that connect them.
Yeah.
That is kind of the whole setup. Yeah, any questions?
Yeah, actually a few. So you ran this as a series of workshops in Indonesia. How did you find, was there any difference I guess LA and Indonesia are not that far off as far as some of the temperature differences, but is there any kind of difference in how the weather might affect the eddy currents or anything? I don't know anything about eddy currents.
Yeah, the temperature and weather doesn't really affect the eddy, the actual electromagnetic generation. I think the thing that, obviously makes sense, but just the weather in general, more wear and tear on the dynamo. Here in LA, I feel like it's pretty dry. It doesn't rain very much. The roads are pretty paved and relatively clean. In Indonesia, it was very humid. It did rain a good amount, and sometimes I'd find myself on off-road situations. So a number of things I didn't think about, like shock absorption, really keeping the thing clean to be able to spin freely, because the way this works is there's not very much room here between the side of this magnet spinning and the copper coil, and that's on purpose so that I can get the most amount of voltage out of it, but it doesn't allow much room for error if dirt and grime gets in there. So it was kind of it was a good testing ground, and now I feel like I need to go back to the drawing board in a way, to redesign it. And I think it's a challenge of balancing. Like, I want to continue doing this as like a workshop. It's a pretty fun concept to talk about and explain, and it kind of touches on a lot of electromagnetism. So it can like spark some interest, and it's like just a weird, it doesn't make sense that, I guess I forgot to mention this at the beginning, but bicycle rims are typically aluminum, and this is the only thing that this works with. But aluminum is non-ferrous, so these magnets are not going to be attracted to the aluminum, and the only reason it spins with the aluminum is because the motion of the wheel actually creates a very slight magnetic charge on the aluminum, and that's what kind of spins this. So there is all kinds of factors that have to come into play, and keeping it making it like going more into the product direction or more into like the workshop direction. I do feel like there's a kind of a split there, where at some point it'll kind of be hard to do as like a workshop. So yeah, that's kind of currently where I'm at with it. But I want to keep on running it as a workshop. So I think it could be much more efficient and get more light if I made the design more complicated, but I'm trying to keep it simple so that it can be run as a workshop and more of a teaching tool, and also like a useful thing at the end.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a really great teaching tool, having been around for said workshop a few times. I got to see how many folks got really into the idea of making something like this and how they could actually utilize it in other ways. So it's really cool to see that you want to stick with that version of it, because I think it's a really great workshop. Joe did ask, does it matter what the wheel rim is made of?
Oh yeah, aluminum. It has to be made of aluminum.
It has to be aluminum?
That's how the eddy currents get induced inside of the aluminum rim, is because it's aluminum. That's not ferrous. And older bike rims are steel, and it just does not work. The magnets just stay. They don't move.
That makes sense. I can see how that would be a problem with magnets. Have you considered doing, I know that right now you have it based on like the safety idea of like backlight and front light. Would it be possible to do another version where you have different colored LEDs and multiple LEDs that light up at the same time, or is that kind of pushing it into like a whole new area?
Yeah, I mean, that would be fun. Like at DynaCon, we did light up sorry, I'm gonna go back over here. We lit up a multicolored like LED badge, which was fun. And eventually I have these, I have like a battery pack, but these are just like RGB WS2812 LEDs I put on the bike. So I love to be able to generate enough power to generate this whole string lights. But right now it just it doesn't generate very much power. We're talking like 20 milliamps, 30 milliamps, enough to light an LED or a couple, but very dimly. So there's actually professional products that I've like measured the amount of current they get out of them, and it's much higher. So I know it's possible. I just need to do some more like designing and figure out trying to get more power out of it, but also trying to make it not that complicated, where we can still do it as a workshop. But for now, it's like a good like safety light. You're not going to really use it to like go mountain biking and be able to see all around you. And you do have to get up to a certain speed before it lights up. You can't it's not going to light up if you're just walking your bike along. I think you need to be going, about like 8 or 10 miles an hour to get some light coming out of it. I haven't actually measured it exactly, but you have to be going up a speed to get some light out. So
totally. Another question from Joe. Someone likes bikes here. Can you put a capacitor in there so the rear light stays on when the light's waiting for a green?
Yes. Yeah. There are a couple capacitors on it right now to create this simple voltage doubler circuit. It's like it rectifies the alternating current generated by the dynamo into DC for the LED. There could be larger capacitors to store energy, which is kind of how the professional ones do it. And there's a really interesting one by this company called Relight that actually blinks when you're stopping. It starts to just like pulse, and it can pulse for like 3 minutes up after you stop, which is super cool. But their design is a little bit bigger than mine, and I think they have a good way of storing the energy in a capacitor, a little bit bigger than these guys. So that would be nice, the next step. Yeah. So if anybody's interested in helping contribute to this, I'd be very, I'd love to collaborate with more folks on this. I got to work with a bunch of people at my job designing this one, which is really fun. And yeah, now I'm looking for more people in the greater community to help.
Yeah, definitely. If folks are looking to do that, all the contact info you'll need to get in contact with William will be in the description of this video, so you can learn more about the Dynamo and try and make it yourself, and also try and improve upon it with him. It seems like you have a lot of ideas for going forward, so it'll be really interesting to see what comes next with it.
Yeah, I hope to be hosting a workshop here in LA, I think in October, maybe doing version 2.0 of the design. So
a great way to spend Open Hardware Month.
Yeah, exactly. And now that I know it's Open Hardware Month, I'm going to make it a part of the whole celebration.
I love it. Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on today, William.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
We'll see you soon.
Yeah.
Another wonderful show full of wonderful folks who are making wonderful things. It's always really fun to get to do this and hear from folks directly about how they've been making and what they're working on next. It's really one of my favorite parts of my job. So thank you so much for coming out today. Thank you for being a part of this and joining in on the conversations. And don't forget, Open Hardware Month is on its way. October 6th, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. We will be live for 12 hours straight talking about all kinds of really cool open source hardware with all kinds of really cool open source hardware creators. So looking forward to spending a wonderful October with you all. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye.